it's not your job to make employees happy. And this kind of blew my mind. But happiness is an intrinsic thing. People decide if they want to be happy or not, right? My job as a CEO is to create an environment where people who want to be happy can be happy. People who want to move forward can move forward. People who just had a baby and want to just chill for a few months and it's okay, they can do that.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Peldi, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on. Balsamiq, if anybody's watched my stuff, like I told you yesterday, I referred probably 3 people just an email because a lot of non-technical founders come to me for like, hey, I've got this idea. I want to build it. I always say, check out your product. You've been doing this since 2008 or 9? 8. Yeah. And for those that don't know what the product does, how do you describe it?
Well, if your audience is SaaS founders, it's basically for when you have to be a UX person, but you can't afford to hire a UX person yet, that's where you need my product most. Basically, it's a simple tool similar to PowerPoint. You drag and drop all these controls, and you assemble user interfaces, whether it's for a website or an app or a desktop app or whatever app you need.
You can design it. I actually built
really
Clarity, my last company, using Balsamiq. I still remember my wife took a picture because it was like 3 a.m. and I had my Thunderbolt monitor with the flows, and she's like, "Are you coming to bed?" And I was like, "I got to finish this."
Nice,
And I'm not a designer, and that's what I've always loved about it is the ability to communicate your ideas. When you think of building this business, I remember in the early days, it wasn't SaaS. That was something that you added later. Mm-hmm. How has the company's business model evolved over the years?
Sure. So when I actually first started, my goal was to be neither SaaS nor licensed, but I wanted to build a plugin for Atlassian Confluence.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
And so sell it that way, because my goal was to have a one-person company. So I thought, if I can get the platform to do my marketing for me, then I don't have to do that. Then I can stay smaller, right?
Yeah.
So at the beginning, I started just building this product as a plugin. Then even before I launched during the beta, my beta people said, "Oh, this is great, but I don't use Confluence. I don't use Jira. Can I have it as a desktop application?" I said, it's 2008. Everything is going to the web. Who wants desktop, right? Well, apparently every time wanted desktop. Everybody wanted desktop. So I had to give in. I fought it because I thought, if I do a desktop app, then I can't really charge as much because it's a very narrowly focused app. And that means that I'll have high volume, but I'm by myself. How do I support high volume? And so the people in the beta said, just don't support it. Just do forums only support, and people support each other. I said, okay. I don't even know how much to charge. And then one person said, well, there's this competitor, which I hadn't even seen yet.
You didn't even know.
That is $79. You're a little better. I said, all right, $79 it is. Like that's how you do pricing.
Yeah.
And so even before launching, my business plan did not survive impact with customers. So I had to give in, and I had to become a shareware guy. And for many years, that was our number one product. Still is. Just a few months ago, 11 years later, SaaS has surpassed desktop.
Really?
Yeah. It's still a big, maybe 50% of our revenue.
When did you make the switch?
So then I also didn't want to do SaaS because it was just me.
Yeah.
I wanted to just have, like I said, a small company. So I wanted to be able to sleep at night. I didn't want to have to run servers and keep them up.
Because the thought was, if I have a subscription, they're going to expect 24/7 connectivity.
It can't go down.
Yeah, it can't.
It can't go down.
The product doesn't work.
It's my first time. I'm not a DevOps. It sounded so stressful. As a solo person, it just seemed like too risky. And
what inspired you to build and now you've got 30 employees. Yeah. It's a totally different game.
Yeah. So a year later, this one guy who was a DevOps person loved everything about us and said, "Come, hire me, and I'll build you the SaaS version of this." And I said, "All right, you're on call though, not me." He said, "It's fine. Yes, I love this stuff." And so that's when we started with the SaaS a year later. Yeah.
And how that transition now people pay. Is there like Teams editions and
Yeah, we have different versions. The SaaS version, which is now our number one product, has these plans, 3 tiers, and they're priced per project. So either 2 projects or 20 projects or 200 projects, and unlimited users. But of course, if you have a lot of projects, usually you have a lot of users. Usually they want to create projects. So it's kind of a proxy. Yeah.
And it's funny because I've been an early customer, and I think like I still get the upgrades. You know, I paid one price
for the desktop.
Yeah, and it's and then so like personally I had that license, and then when I built the companies I always bought the team stuff. And what have you learned about like the 2 business models? Is there different customer segments? Like, do you have different types of support needs now?
Well, I mean,
do you wish you would have done it earlier?
You know, I like to have the mix. I like to have the mix because people for my specific solution, you know, it's a tool, and people still really like to have it offline, save their data locally. It's just familiar. It's the old Office, Microsoft Office model, or the old Photoshop, right? They like to pay once and use it as much as they want. They want to keep their data private on their computers, and I get it. I'm like that with some software as well.
Yeah.
Less and less now, but it's faster. It supports more keyboard shortcuts. You know, it's just more optimized, more native experience. But then for people who are where collaboration is more important, then the online version is clearly more powerful. There's revision history and you know all that.
But what's interesting is like I feel like, you know, maybe it's just my hallucination, but like you really pioneered this space of collaborative workflows and mock-ups, and then now there's some other companies that have come in. Some of them are venture backed. How did that impact what you did, or because you were just focused on building a profitable? And that's one thing I love. Like on your about page, it's like, we're not for sale.
Right.
Thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah.
And that's always been your ethos.
Yeah.
How have like when you saw those other companies do things, were you inspired by them? Were you like, hey, that's cool, but that's just not our customer? How did you think about the competition as they showed up?
That's been a evolving thing. So when I first started, I had initial success, and I shared everything about my revenue numbers and everything on my blog, just mostly for 2 reasons. One is I was alone. I had no one to talk to, so I blogged instead.
Yeah.
And second is I wanted to show my customers, some of which were big enterprises, that yes, I was a single person doing something, but I was making money. I was going to be around to support them if they wanted to, right?
Yeah.
As a big company, I wouldn't buy from a single person company, right? That's too risky. They might go belly up next year. So I was sharing all this data, and that spawned, I call it the year of the clones, 2010.
That was the year.
5-6 different straight up clones. Or, you know, they copied everything, and then they had a little angle or there was one that did a SaaS before us because they saw that I didn't want to do a SaaS by myself. So they came, and for a while it didn't really impact our sales. In fact, I think it cemented us as the leader.
Yep. It's hard to talk about this space without mentioning you guys.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Exactly. So whenever they would get a review, we would get a review. It was good for us, although it was kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But they mostly came and went. Then we had one team of 2 that built something, and they got into Y Combinator, and so I was like, oh crap, this could be bad.
Yeah.
2 years later, they went to work for Stripe. It's the thing is about these little apps is that they're still around.
Yeah.
They don't kill them because they just don't work on it, and they bring in a little,
Yeah.
couple $100 a month, and it's really unethical to their customers, I think.
Because they're not investing.
They're not supporting
in
it. They're not. I bet they're not even doing security fixes. You
Yeah.
know, that's just junk that's left over in space,
Yeah,
right?
it just degrades.
I get calls once in a while from some of these people who are like, "Hey, do you want to buy my customer base?" And then I ask them, and they make as much in a year that we make in 3 hours. You know,
Yeah.
like
It's not even
it's
worth
just not
paperwork.
worth it. Not worth
Yeah.
it. But they do pollute. When people do reviews of the space, they list all these things,
And
half of which are dead.
yeah,
you
the
know?
links don't even work.
And you don't see it. They just remove all dates from their website. They remove the blog, and it's just this.
Do you actually
timeless
see
thing.
them do that? Like
Yeah,
they do.
yeah.
Okay, so it's a
Yeah.
way for them
Yeah,
to.
so that happens. So for a while, that's what happened. Now, what happened was that Adobe got in the game with Adobe XD.
Mhm.
So when I was at Adobe, there was this rule where you couldn't start a new product unless it was pretty much guaranteed to make $100 million in revenue from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it's just a big company,
Yeah.
and you can't just ship in one language. It has to ship in 20 languages,
Yeah.
right? Even version 1, right? So they have these fixed costs. And so the UX space was not big enough for them, right? But then things changed at Adobe. They went through a rough patch, et cetera, et cetera. Their products are very mature. This UX thing is growing and
It's a
growing.
thing,
And
yeah.
they saw that there were a couple of companies doing pretty well. And so I think they lowered that threshold, and they started with these other products. So Adobe XD is a great product. I've only used it once or twice. And it's really like Fireworks used to be, a simple graphic design tool. And what's interesting is that they put a UX spin on it. It's really a generic tool.
Yeah.
But they, in order to market it better, to focus it better, they say,
Those are positioning.
yeah, it's a positioning, purely a positioning thing. At least at first. Now they've built more features that are specifically for prototyping. Or Figma is another one.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically Illustrator,
Yeah.
right? But that's too much
Yeah.
to go after at the beginning. So they said, oh, it's Illustrator, but only for UX,
Yeah.
prototyping, right? Then there's InVision, who is all marketing,
Yeah.
right? Tons and tons of money. So I've been getting calls from VCs for 10 years, and I say, go give it to someone else. Like, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And so they have, so.
But they continue to educate the market.
Yeah, and also the only change we've had to do since all these big players showed up is to make it more clear to our customers and our potential customers that we don't really compete with them. They are prototyping tools. They're pro tools for UX designers.
Yeah, so they're for the designers
Yeah.
that are professionals at UX. And last time we were talking, you said,
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, so we are perfect for people who have to act as a designer. So product managers,
Early founders that don't have it. Yeah.
founders. We have so many founders. Right? You have this idea and you have to get it
Explain-
built,
yeah.
right? So our tool is perfect because you don't have to know anything about anything. You just put it together. You just transform your idea into a design, and then with that, you go and hire a programmer. You hire a graphic designer to make it pretty, and if you can, you hire a UX consultant to help you, or you just do it all yourself and talk to customers and test it, etc. So for that market, we have the best solution.
mm-hmm.
They would not. First of all, we cost a tenth of what those other tools cost, because those tools are for professionals who that's their only tool. They live in that tool day after day. So of course it's got to cost more.
And
right?
as soon as you cater to that audience, like all these tools like InVision app and others, it's like the product's complexity.
Oh yeah. Yeah, forget it.
It brings it to a level where these non-designer designers,
No, then
I
they're
mean,
left in it. Yeah,
there's just no way they're going to figure this out.
exactly. So we say we are your first tool. Then, if you want to become a UX professional, go ahead, graduate to something more complicated, right? If you hire a UX professional, then they're going to use whatever they want.
Yeah.
But we want Balsamiq to be the first tool that people who are getting into UX use, because it's It's just the easiest and most approachable, and we want to keep it that way. So what I did was I hid some of the most power user features from the product because we were going back to our roots. We're saying, no, we don't want, we have a lot of people who actually live in Balsamiq. And
that's
and
what
use that.
yeah, even designers. Yeah.
We do, actually, we get a lot of senior designers who know not to chase the latest shiny thing, and they know which tool to use.
Yeah, you mentioned that it's like for the first non-designer, and then for the professionals that know better.
Yeah,
when prototyping.
The senior designers, they know
when you prototype,
they have a set of tools, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I just need to do wireframes. I'm just going to use Balsamiq. It takes half the time, a third of the time of any other tool.
Yeah, for wireframing.
Also, we purposely don't let you mess with details and colors and precision. We're never going to add those features, right? Because if I let you do that, then I put the onus on you to not do that, right? Yeah. All these other tools can also do low fidelity wireframing, but you can also, it's, the ability to tweak a corner radius on a rectangle is right there, right? So people say that they need incredible self-discipline to stop and do it quickly when they use those tools.
Yeah.
In Balsamiq, you just can't do any of those things. So it is quick, or there's no way. It's really hard to be slow in Balsamiq.
Yeah. And one of the things I've always found fascinating, Peldi, about you, and there's this whole cohort of like early SaaS founders, product founders back in that 2009, like where, I mean, still to this day, I know you probably don't do all support, but like in the early days.
Oh, I love support. I love doing
yeah,
support.
But that was like you emailed and you replied. Like, what are the things like that you did to win the customer's mind or differentiate yourself from other tools out there?
Let's see. So from the beginning, it was very clear to me that one should not compete on features. I used to say competing on features is very 1990s. Right now, the software industry has matured. After a while, all the products that solve a specific problem will kind of look the same and behave the same because
that's the right way to solve the problem.
Right? I mean, they're tools, right? So yes, there's 1,000 brands of screwdrivers or pliers.
Project management software.
Or pliers, tools, hammers.
Yeah.
There's the best hammers and the cheap hammers, but they all kind of look the same, right? That's inevitable with tools. And so don't compete on that. So I always wanted to compete on usability and customer service. So usability means our product is so focused that it is easy to use, and we are better than our competition at saying no to new features, keeping it focused, not going after bigger markets. We're going to keep it focused. This is enough for us because we're a small company. We want to remain a small company, so that's fine. And also usability for us is also every interaction that you have with us has to be top-notch. So customer service is really, another facet of that same...
The front line, yeah.
Yeah, and so I set up a remote global company from the beginning. My second employee was in California while I was in Italy because I thought that was a competitive advantage. These other small competitors, they only have one location, and so they sleep. And so they don't answer the phone 17 hours out of the 24 hours like we do.
Did you have a phone number right from the beginning?
Yeah, at the beginning, right.
Which is pretty rare.
Yeah, but as a customer,
that's what you want.
That?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I think the relentless customer focus and trying to do right by our customers has been maybe unique, but
super unique.
Maybe not anymore.
Especially for the price point. I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we always support anybody. We never check your license before answering. Yeah, so support has been
a competitive advantage.
Yeah, but it's also been it's not just for our customers, it's also for ourselves, because if you give people great support, they will give back in feedback and suggestions. We have very active forums from the beginning. And so we know where the roughest edges of the product are immediately. We don't do any analytics ever. We've never done it because people tell us, they scream at us.
Yeah.
We have
when they
a ton of qualitative, so more in-depth data. We talk to people all the time. We interview our customers all the time, and it's so easy. They volunteer. We have a customer advisory board, which we started a couple of months ago, and it's already 200 people.
Wow.
So we have a question about, hey, should we design this way or that way? Boom, we got a ton of great feedback, right?
How do you use the I call it a CAB customer advisory board?
Yeah.
How do you, do you show them early mock-ups?
Yeah, we're just getting started, but we've had incarnations of the same thing for forever. And I used to just design new features in Balsamiq, put them in the forums.
It'd be so weird if you didn't.
Yeah, right. Put them in the forums and say, okay, you've been asking for this feature. How about we design it this way? And you get such great feedback because your customers use your product much more than you do. You're too busy building it to use it, right? So by doing that, you get all the different use cases that you would not see right away. And also, this kind of buys you time. That's kind of a trick. If you don't, if you say, "Oh, let's discuss this for a couple of months," that way I don't have to build. I want to get it right.
Yeah. You know, it's gonna take you some time.
Yeah, exactly.
And they give you that grace period. That's so smart.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, so we do that, or we whenever we do surveys to define our personas better, to try to understand what these people do or what they like. It helps us with our marketing. It's like, are you guys on LinkedIn? Should we market on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever? So we closed our Facebook page recently.
Yeah. Didn't matter.
No.
And do you ask them like what events you guys go to or where do you think we
should
show up?
Yeah. We do all that, yeah. And it's great. So, but you got to earn that, right? Yeah. People don't give you their precious time for nothing, right? They have to sort of feel like they are
investing,
jumping on the train with you, and we're going together to a better place, right?
Co-create.
Yeah.
So one thing I've always been fascinating, Peldi, you live in Italy, and I see you at a lot of events. For somebody that lives in so many time zones apart, and you guys blog and share and educate. How has that played into your kind of, creating value for the customer? Because I know that's like one thing you say is like our mission is not only, the tool, but also to educate non-designers. I mean, your series on like UX, basic stuff to a UX person, but definitely not known to a non-designer that can transform an app's ability to solve the problem, right? Yeah. How have you thought of...
Right. So that came a couple of years ago. We were 10 years old. The product was getting to be pretty mature because, like I said, after a while, you've done it. It's good.
Yeah.
It's
the tool.
It's the tool that it solves the
best hammer.
It's the best hammer, right?
Yeah.
But so I thought, all right, now what, right? So we go back to our company mission, and the mission is to help get rid the world of bad software.
That's your mission.
From day one.
Wow,
from the very beginning.
That's awesome.
It's not that big of a mission, it's not.
But it's cool that you crystallize it so early.
But it's been that since the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, help rid the world of bad software. We've built a tool. We've built a company behind it that is solid and then can support the tool and make it better and support our customers. Great. Now what else can we do? And we're like, well, we've heard from our customers loud and clear that just because you have a tool doesn't mean you do good work. A pencil, you could do scratches, or you could be Leonardo da Vinci, right?
Yeah.
It's the same pencil, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, perfect. The tool is mature. Now we invest less in the tool and more in education. And so the first step was to raise our event sponsorship budget. So I thought, okay, we don't even have a team now to teach people about UX, but there's 1 million people already educating about UX. Let's look at all the UX events that are helping people get better at UX and sponsor the heck out of them. So
awesome.
We set up a $350,000 yearly budget for sponsoring events. And we basically don't want anything in return. We give them the logo. Sometimes they don't even put the logo. It doesn't really matter, because what matters is that they're helping us in our
educate
goal to rid the world of bad software, right? Then we started investing in an education team. So, and we put it right in front top navigation. You have product, company, learn UI design, right? And basically, the way you can summarize it is, I want wireframing to be synonymous with Balsamiq. Not prototyping. The bigger players can have that for the pros. But wireframing is a unsexy word. You know what happened? At the beginning, in the 80s and 90s, there was HCI, human-computer interaction. And inside of it, there were all these disciplines, information architecture and wireframing and prototyping and card sorting and user research. And sorry, card sorting is a technique, it's not a job. Anyways, then in the 90s and 2000, it all got bundled together into UX. UX was the sexy term. And so that was great for the world as a whole, I think, because it was easy to show the world that this is where we're competing now and this is what matters, which is great for the end users. But it all got muddled together. Now that term is mature enough that I feel like the little disciplines inside UX can be brought up again and stand on its own. And so if that's happening, that's the trend that I'm seeing. Wireframing, I want to own. All the other disciplines, we're not big enough, and maybe someday, but that's fine. But wireframing is enough. It's big enough. It's important enough. It's the one step that you really can't skip. And so I said, all right, I want us to be synonymous with wireframing. So let's create a team that teaches people how to wireframe. Our website says, go from zero to decent. Right, you're not going to become a pro.
No.
You don't need to become a pro. But if you want to, we'll give you an on-ramp, right? But for most people, we want them to be decent because it does change the world. If everybody knows a little bit about user interface design, the world becomes a better place. So every app becomes better.
And it's not just software, because like people use Balsamiq to explain floor plans and,
Did you notice in the slides yesterday here at the conference, they had a few charts, like quadrants, and those were clearly
all done
made
in
with Balsamiq.
Balsamiq. I mean, people just use it to communicate information. But like, how did you build that? So did you hire?
So now we changed someone's job to be full-time
education,
and then we hired another person to be full-time, and now we moved a marketing person full-time to that to help them share. They've been building a big library of articles and courses. And now in a month they're going to do a mini retreat in Chicago to kick off the team, and there's going to be another person joining. So basically we're building out a team.
You're
and
doubling down on this.
Yeah, for sure. It's the most important thing. It's the concept of the total product, right? The bits are just a little part of it. The support is just as important. The documentation is just as important. And the education is just as important. So we're going to do events. We're going to do workshops. We're going to do meetups. We're going to grow that part for the next decade. That's just as important as I want us to become as well known for that than the product itself. In fact, that education team, it's explicit not to write Balsamiq everywhere. You can use it as the example, but what you're teaching is generic. They could do it on pen and paper if they want it.
Well, I heard somebody say once, they said, if you do it right, your marketing will serve more people than your product ever will.
Yeah, no, of course.
I love that idea.
Of course,
if you do it right, if you create really great marketing.
Always, it's the O'Reilly create more value than you capture, right?
Yeah,
it's absolutely, we've lived by that since the beginning.
And as you've built the business, it's funny because I used to be a developer, and I just didn't want to talk to people, and then I realized, well, shit, if I want to build a company, I'm gonna have to learn how to recruit people, because then I can do more. What does that journey look like for you at Balsamiq as the were those what inflection points did you?
Oh, several. I think
and that's what I love about when you speak. You always share the those learning opportunities.
It's really people think that learning is a straight curve like this, but really it's
step functions,
up and down, up and down, up and down, and you think you know what you're doing, and all of a sudden, whoa, you're back at the bottom, and you're like, oh crap, I did not expect this giant challenge. But over time, you get better, I guess. So, I mean, at the beginning, like I said, I was dead set on having a micro, one-person, solopreneur software company forever.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to have reports. I just wanted to be myself with my craft.
Do great work.
And do great work. That didn't last. After 6
The
months,
DevOps
I
guy,
went
was
to...
he the first guy?
No. I went about 6 months by myself. I got to about 3,000 customers. And then I realized that I was doing customer service all week. And then I would only be able to code in the weekends when they would leave me alone.
Wow.
I did 6 weeks of this. And then I woke up one morning thinking I was going to die. Just sweating. I was like, I got to hire someone today. So I hired a programmer right away. And that helped. And then a month later, I hired a support person in California, which helped. And then, but then I got to 5 people, and I said, that's it. I even wrote it on the blog. I hope for the next 2 years is for nothing to change.
Yeah,
right?
just go with 5.
5 is a great team.
Yeah.
You can do so much
Yeah.
with 5.
Yeah.
And the customers kept coming and coming and coming, and the support team was struggling, and we were all struggling. And so,
Did you do anything unique? Because like, as much as you guys are, Italy and European, even the name, but like, it's funny because people say like, "Hey, we're a European company. We want to enter the U.S. market."
no.
Like, how do you like? You guys are just like,
We're an internet company.
yeah.
People don't
like,
even
I don't
know we
understand
exist.
how that. I guess understand like there's currency issues,
Yeah.
et cetera. But like, how did you decide?
Well,
or
I was
do
lucky
that?
because I started the company when I was in the U.S. So I was able to. I had a bank account.
Okay, so
I
that's
had
why it for the most part you could take U.S. dollar transactions. It
Right.
was- yeah.
So the sales has always been through the U.S. So you can work with all the payment processors, even if
it.
they're not in Europe yet. So the way we set it up is that the Italian company is an R&D company, and it only has one customer, the American company.
Yeah.
So it sells everything to the American company. The American company is in charge of marketing and sales.
Perfect.
So
That's how you did that.
yeah, that took a year and a half of
yeah,
3 sets
lawyers
of
and
accountants and
accountants.
lawyers and
Yeah.
but that's how it works now. Yeah.
So 5 employees. And
5
then
employees,
boom,
and I thought-
customers kept coming.
Yeah, and we were struggling, and we got an acquisition offer, and I seriously considered.
Did
'cause
you
I
really?
thought, oh yeah, just then, huge, and seriously, we were this close because I thought, hey, I'm gonna hire myself a boss so I can code all day, which is what
Yeah.
I love, and then it turns out that they expected me to hire 60 people after the acquisition. I was like, wait a minute, no.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a manager. So that was a big inflection point where we decided, okay, we're going to stick to it alone. We're going to hire 5 more people. We're going to be 10 people forever. That's going to be great. So
Okay.
we did that. We got to 10. For a couple of years, it was fine. And then we're like, well, we got to rewrite the whole application because Flash is dying. We got to rewrite it all. All right.
How long did you last at 10?
A couple of years, maybe. Then we were like, all right, we're going to 16 in 6 months. And we hired a bunch of developers. And that changed everything again, because all of a sudden now we needed to write down our policies in a handbook.
Yeah.
Before it was just me talking to everybody, right?
Yeah.
So then we were 16 for a while. We grew a little bit. And then we got stuck at 22, 23. That was okay for a few years. And then this education thing started, and we wanted just to do more. Our customers want us to do more, and we can afford to. And so we hired 8 people in a year again. So now we're 33. And that was a bit of a mess for me specifically, because during this whole time, I never set up a managers.
Yeah.
So everybody was always
Leadership
reporting
team.
to me. We're flat, which really means that everybody reports to me. And when it's 32 people, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Doesn't work for me and doesn't work for them. So had a bit of a breakdown and try to figure out what am I really needed for? What should I focus on? What should I delegate? So that was a big growing pain last year. And
How did you learn all this stuff? Was it just talking to other founders, or are you an avid reader? Did you go to?
Well, I come to this business software conference once a year and
Yeah.
always feel horrible.
Opportunity. You're like, okay.
Oh man, yes. This conference has a very short time to imposter syndrome. You know,
Yeah.
within the first couple of talks, you feel like, oh, I'm doing everything wrong.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from people this way, but mostly it's also on my own skin. We take these experiments and we power through it somehow. You know, within the team, there's a bunch of people that are very supportive and help me work through it.
In that journey, financially, did you ever have any scares, issues? No, because it was pretty steady.
We've been so blessed.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that all this, the number one problem, you tell me because you speak to hundreds of SaaS people, but usually the problem is we're not making enough money to continue, right? We need more, we need growth. For us, since the beginning, it's been the opposite, where we can't keep up with the growth.
Yeah.
For the first few years, that's what it was. It was like being strapped to this rocket and trying to steer it somehow. In the last 3-4 years, that's slowed down some to a healthy little growth percentage, but that's all. We've always had more money than we need.
Yeah.
So luckily, that's
never been
not
an
a
issue.
concern.
Has there
Also,
been
the competition has never been really serious.
Yeah.
So we can take our time. We don't have deadlines. You know,
you can create the right product. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not stressed out. A lot of
do
people,
it when it's
they get
ready.
that way because they're trying to grow and add features, and they hire a bunch of engineers, and it's expensive, and then the product doesn't materialize to the revenue they thought it
Right.
would.
Right.
But because you guys have said, look, we're not going to add everything. We're actually
Right.
going to be deliberate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. Like,
Oh,
Peldi,
man.
I don't know how you do. Honestly, it's like,
Well, it's you gotta curb your ambition too, right? Yesterday there was this slide that said you have to have a good product. What was it? You have to have a good product for a good market, and you should also be trendy, right?
oh, that was April's slide. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I don't want to be trendy. I'm totally happy just with a good product and a good market. We
Yeah.
don't want any press. We don't want to just
Yeah.
leave us alone.
Yeah,
with
you don't
our
need to add any
customers,
AI.
serving.
Yeah. Blockchain.
I don't need.
Yeah.
I don't want any of that. I've seen the
Come and go.
Come and go. Remember Google Wave? Our customers were begging
People
us.
forget about this.
Begging us to go. You have to go to Wave. What do you think, you idiot? That's the future. A year later, it was killed. Right?
Yeah.
Google Plus. You have to integrate. No, chill. Relax.
I love that. Do you
Relax.
remember Google Wave?
Yeah.
Because it was like touted
my
as this
gosh.
is going to be the next collaboration
Forget it.
platform.
Everything.
Everything.
We're gonna take over everything.
Wow. Like
Every few
lots
years,
of
there's
money.
something like that. Our industry is very
Transient.
fashion driven, and every few years we got to reinvent everything again.
But it sounds like, just like Bezos says, it's like customers will always want a better customer experience. They always want a
Exactly.
faster app. They want an
Exactly.
easier tool
Yeah.
to use.
Focus on things that are not going to change in 10 years, right?
Yeah. Peldi, I love to ask founders, as you look back at this journey, who have you had to become to be the CEO of this business?
Oh man, you have to really reinvent yourself so many times, and it's so hard.
How did that look
remember-
like for you? Yeah.
I remember thinking when we were 5 people, and I was happy as a clam, and I wanted to stay that way, and it was obvious that the market was telling us, no, that's not the right size for what you're doing. And I was like, but it's my company, goddammit. Sorry.
No, you can swear.
I don't
Yeah.
like to. It's my company. Shouldn't I have a say in how big it is? And it's my dream. And you gotta I could have raised prices and have fewer customers, right? But that doesn't make any sense for the kind of product that I want to build. And if you raise prices, then you gotta add more features to justify that. And now you're competing with Microsoft and Adobe. Good luck with that, right? As a 5-person company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're opening yourselves up for disruption from the bottom, right? Clayton Christensen. So I didn't want to raise prices. It didn't make sense. So really, all you get to choose as an entrepreneur is the problem you want to solve. And once you've chosen that, there is a natural home for someone to solve that problem. There is a natural size of company for someone. Like if you want to feed pizza to the neighborhood, you can do that with 2-3 people. It doesn't make sense to hire 30 people, right? If you want to eradicate polio, right?
You're going to need some money.
You're going to need a heck of a lot of funding. There's only Bill Gates can do that,
Yeah.
right? So as an entrepreneur, that's what you choose.
You choose the problem.
Choose the problem and then think about it. Okay, in 10 years, where does this live? Is this going to be a free feature of AWS, right? Eventually, that's where people are going to look for that. Well, then you better structure your company so that Amazon buys you, right? Yeah. If instead do you think there's a future for a freestanding thing like this? Is it going to be a small market for, the wireframing market is maybe $10 million a year. That's nothing, in
the grand scheme of things.
It's too small for the big competitors to go after, and it's too big for the tiny people to chase. And we are dominating; we're taking the majority of that. So, it's going to grow, but gradually, it's still a small niche. And so that probably can sustain a couple of companies like ours of 20, 30 people. That's great. Mm-hmm. But if you're picking something that's going to blow up, you better act accordingly, right?
Yeah.
So you have to really, until you find that balance of company size, company structure,
you gotta grow.
You have to follow the market, because if you don't, someone else will.
Yeah.
The software itself, it's not that hard.
Yeah. It's essentially building the business. And like in regards to when you look back, Peldi, the entrepreneur that started this, mindset, beliefs, habits, characteristics, like what are the things that you had to change to allow
you had to sort of accept, it took me years to accept that I was the boss. The B word was not allowed.
Yeah.
At Balsamiq. Manager was a bad word. But then you realize, oh, crap, people haven't had a raise in years because, hey, I'm not the boss.
Who else is going to make that decision? Yeah, right? There's certain decisions that don't get made if nobody's the boss.
Nobody's the boss. I'm not the
fascinating,
boss, right? Yeah.
Or give yourself a raise.
Or, or no one cares for employees' career development, right? Yeah. No one's setting up professional development programs. No one's doing any of this very important stuff, not just for the employee, but for the whole company, right? And so I was like, shit, I got to be the boss. So I had to do a bunch of reading and do that. And then you do that for a few years, and I realized I'm not really good at that. I'm better at doing this or that. And so then you delegate. You learn what to delegate.
Yeah. Did you ever hire a coach to support you on that stuff?
I hired a coach just for a few lessons. And the only thing we worked on is, what is the job of a CEO?
Yeah.
That was my one question. What am I supposed to be doing? Because I know what I'm doing. What I was doing was taking out the garbage. To me, I'm the ultimate servant leader. I hire good people, and if there's something boring or repetitive,
you'll take it on.
I'll do it. Don't worry. You work on harder stuff, right? Yeah, but the company didn't need a janitor. They needed a leader, right? Someone who spent time to craft a vision and blah, 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 which I'm still not very good at. But
what did you learn? What is that? What did you learn? Some of the big things that the CEO.
Well, so I'm trying to remember. I have to look up my notes. But there's definitely you should be allowed. You shouldn't be busy. All the usual stuff people say. You shouldn't be busy, because if you're busy, then you don't really have time to think strategically. And I didn't really understand what that meant until one day I managed to magically free my schedule for the week on Friday at noon, right? So I had the afternoon free. I didn't know what to do. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to watch a Des Traynor talk, because I love the guy.
Yeah.
And I was feeling really guilty about it, watching something for an hour, Anyways, while I was watching this, I was taking notes furiously, and it gave me so much clarity, and I came up with obvious things that we must do in the next few years. And then I was able to communicate those to the team, and I realized that we were spinning in place in some places. We were, that 1 hour that I was able to take resulted in happier employees for years, right?
Wow.
So it is totally worth it.
And you're like, oh, that's how strategic
That's
work.
what it means. It's really, that's it.
Thinking
it's
about
nothing more than that. Just spend some time just learning from others, and or reading, or, and and it will give you yourself clarity, but then it will give the whole team a better direction, and you'll waste less time. Everybody will be happy.
But that's why you need to free up your schedule.
That's why you need to free up your schedule. So freeing up your schedule is a hard thing, ongoing activity, because things tend to creep up again, and so.
And you mentioned vision, creating the vision.
Yeah. So there's that, and then what else do you have to do? Well, first, obviously, you have to sort of be the caretaker of the financials. You have to make sure that everything's working
taxes are
fine.
paid.
You know, all that. But you delegate most of that to a CFO. But you still have to,
And you still go to jail if they don't.
Yeah.
That's what I always tell my
Then,
CFO. Like, please don't send me
yeah,
to jail.
yeah.
I'm going to sign this.
Yeah. Then a lot of it is the culture, the policies. So one big lesson that this coach gave me was, it's not your job to make employees happy. And this kind of blew my mind. But happiness is an intrinsic thing. People decide if they want to be happy or not, right? My job as a CEO is to create an environment where people who want to be happy can be happy. People who want to move forward can move forward. People who just had a baby and want to just chill for a few months and it's okay, they can do that. And then the year later, they want to learn a ton and become more senior, they can do that. So that's the job. Your job is to set the boundaries, create the environment, and then they choose what they want to do. And this was very freeing for me, because I was taking it very personally anytime any employee had any issue.
Bad day.
Any bad.
And 30 people, direct reports, you're feeling it.
I wasn't sleeping. Because for them, they would just, we asked them, what are your challenges right now? But those were, after delegating everything else, I was left with only one-on-one meetings, and that's all I did all day. I heard them bitching and moaning. And individually, maybe it was a little thing for them, but I would only get that. And so I got super depressed. I thought I was doing a horrible job.
Yeah.
And, so I delegated. Now I don't do that anymore. We figured out a different way to do that. But what the coach said, they're going to have good days and bad days, and the best you can do, and really your job, the only thing you can do is try to create a good environment. And so that shifted my thinking quite a bit, and that's been very helpful.
What needs to happen for you as the founder going forward? Like, what are some of the areas that you want to work on or take to the next level?
Well, we're still working on figuring out how to do these manager tasks, these important managers, people managing tasks, jobs, in a way that is Balsamiq. So we're not going to introduce managers, traditional managers, quite yet. Or
TPS reports.
Yeah, exactly. We definitely have been fighting to be non-corporate forever, but it does creep up on you, and you sort of try to. It starts to make sense.
Yeah, you understand why those things exist. It's
I
like,
see,
that's how 5,000 people companies are managed.
You have to have all that crap.
Yeah.
But maybe there's ways to innovate there too. We treat the company very much as a product. We're on version 5 right now of the company.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. And so every few years you got to reinvent it and update the whole handbook and work on it together. And so right now we're experimenting with making the team. We have individual teams for different things, and some people are making the whole team the manager. So if there's a tough conversation about someone non-performing, it happens with the team.
Level.
And it's 4 or 5 people usually per team, so it's small enough that it is hard, but it also brings the team together. Same thing, we're adding these checklists to make sure that everybody is doing well, everybody is fulfilled, or their
systems,
career development. We meet the teams meet quarterly, mostly without me at this point, and plan out not just the work but also
themselves
how we
and where
work.
they want to go. Yeah.
So that could work.
Yeah.
I've also heard from some other people who are like, that seems like a lot of work. Can I just have a manager?
Yeah. I don't need.
I don't want to learn.
Yeah.
I don't want to,
have somebody else.
Just give me someone.
Yeah.
Hire someone for me
Yeah.
to care about that.
Yeah.
So we might do that for some teams. We'll see.
But it's cool because you're saying it's like it's an experiment, and version 6, we might throw all that away and go down a different path.
We'll see. You have to. You think you're building these rules and they last forever? Forget that.
Yeah.
Forget that. You can't.
How do people find you online, Peldi?
Balsamiq.com. It's
Just
like
go to the site, download, use it, become a customer.
Learn UI
UI
design,
design.
learn about our company.
Rid the world of bad software.
Yeah, get it for free.
Really appreciate you coming on. Peldi, it's awesome catching up.
Thanks, Dan.
Talk soon.
Thanks for watching this episode of Escape Velocity. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment with your biggest insight from our conversation. Be sure to check out the next episode.